The Muenster Football Show is brought to you by the Muenster Booster Clubs, Romer's Restaurant, and the Muenster Chamber of Commerce. Romer's Restaurant located at 217 East Division Street on Highway 82 right there in Muenster. You can give them a call at 940-759-2973. You can find them on Facebook. Just type in Romer's Restaurant. We are once again happy to be able to advertise the Muenster Chamber of Commerce Oktoberfest. I think this is the fourth year that I've done this, third year maybe. But this year it's on October 6th, 7th, 8th. It's always a fun weekend. Grant Goodwin and I have been there a couple times. My favorite, I'm a big animal guy, so why? But my favorite's the Wiener Dog race. But the food is absolutely amazing. And be listening to this show, the Muenster Football Show, but also Sideline to Sideline, as we're going to be promoting the Oktoberfest all the way up until October. And we'll have more details on the schedule and all as we get closer to it. But again, thank you to Muenster Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring not only the Muenster Football Show, but also Sideline to Sideline. A tough start for a young squad. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Muenster Football Show, right here on S2S Sports on the L4 Media Company, brought to you by the Muenster Booster Club, Romer's Restaurant, and the Muenster Chamber of Commerce. As the Hornets fall in a tough one, 34-19 to a Bells team that, of course, we all know how great Bells is. And we also know how young the Hornets are. And as Coach Carnio lets you know, we'll also know how injured this team is. Injuries have just been such an issue the last couple of years for the Hornets, and it started out that way this season as well. It's at least right now, though, most of them, the players will be back, and that's the important thing. And you're going to get even younger guys some more time. But it's going to be an interesting year. I think it's going to be a fun year. I enjoy watching a team, especially a team as good as Muenster and a program as good as Muenster. I enjoy when they have that year of the young guys because you get to kind of see the reloading take place. And that's some of the learning experiences, the bumps along the way. I enjoy that part. It's fun to see. It's fun to see a program established. Don't get me wrong, especially if you're a fan of it. But it's also fun to see when that established program has to kind of rebuild at the same time. And that's what we're going to see with Muenster this year. It doesn't mean that they're not going to make the playoffs or they're not going to be a region threat. You know, Coach will talk about it in the show, but he brings up that 2020 team that started like 1-3 and ended up 10-4. So just because you're rebuilding doesn't mean you can't reload as well. And that's something we always talk about on Sideline to Sideline is the reload versus the rebuild. Speaking of Sideline to Sideline, this year, if you do not know, for the first time, we are now talking 2A. So each and every week you can hear Grant Goodwin and I of Sideline to Sideline talk 2A footballs. We'll have a 2A weekly show. The first one is up at www.s2sgrantandterry.com. You can also find us on all podcast platforms. Just type in Sideline to Sideline and follow. You can also find us on YouTube. It's a video show as well at L4 Media Company. Just type that in, look on the YouTube, and please like and subscribe. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to the head coach of Muenster, Coach Brady Carney, about the loss to Bells, about Paradise, who's a very interesting team, and just what is it like to be coaching a young team for the first time in a couple of years, right here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media. Terry Bennett back here on the Muenster Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney. And, Coach, first week of the season last week, you play a tough team in Bells, 34-19 you lose. Give me your thoughts on that game.
Well, I think it's a game of missed opportunities with a young and inexperienced team. When I say that, I'm just talking inexperienced on Friday nights. You know, we've got seniors starting that have never really played a ton on Friday nights. We got 3 kids that have played meaningful minutes. And so, you know, when you take 8 kids and throw them on the field against a team like Bells, who's well coached by Coach West, and do what they do with their slot tee, it's tough. But man, I was super proud of our effort and our fight and our physicality. I thought we did really well. We just missed some opportunities. You know, we couldn't get it in from the 1-yard line early. We had a 45-yard screen pass for a touchdown that got called back. We just missed some opportunities to make the game even closer and maybe even have a chance to win. But you're going to get that early in the season with the young team, and hopefully we can build from some of the positives and get better this week.
Well, let's talk about the youth of this team. And, your program the last few years, it seems like y'all have consistently, reloaded instead of rebuilding. And I still think you're going to reload this year, but it is a little bit more of a rebuild. As a coach, how is it different with a team like this compared to your state championship teams, your teams that have had, 14 starters coming back? What's it like only having 2 or 3 getting meaningful, snaps before the season?
Well, I think from a coaching standpoint, you got to be more patient with them. You got to be able to coach them and help them understand. And there's going to be moments where they have those laps in memory and what they're supposed to be doing. And you've got to, as a coach, you got to see that. You got to try to get it across to them in the best way you can. And as a coach, I feel like you've got to be able to adapt and figure out each kid's strengths, what they can do and how they learn and what they can do well and how you teach them, and that's part of being a young team too. We're still trying to figure out some of these guys and where they exactly fit and what's best for us. But, that's some of the funnest teams you can coach are those young teams that you see get better each week. And I feel like we've done that so far, from the Jacksboro scrimmage to the Bowie and from Bowie to Bells. I thought we've improved each week, and we just got to continue to do that. But, as a coach, I think patience is key with a young team and an inexperienced team. And a kid that may not perform the way you want them to in the first week, you're hoping by the time you get to district, the 5th game of the season, that they're doing what you ask them to do and understanding what you want them to do. So I think that's the key to anything, is just seeing progress each week. And when you sit down on Saturday morning and watch the film, or Friday night, you see a kid that didn't do what you asked him to do against Bells, that he's doing it against Paradise. And you realize at that point he's going to understand what you want, and he's getting better. And each and every week, hopefully he does that and just continues to improve.
Well, and I've always been told, every coach talks about that adjustment. They call it the leap from week 1 to week 2 is usually one of the bigger leaps. And when you see that as a coach, and you kind of said it, you start to see what they might do. That's got to feel good. I mean, just going past being successful as a football coach, but just being a mentor and seeing your teaching working on a kid as he's starting to figure it out.
Sure. Yeah. And I mentioned to you earlier, I think it was our 2020 or 21 team that I think we started the season 1-2 or 1-3. But man, they bought in and kept working. They ended up being a 10-14. Windthorst won the state championship that year, and we played them within 2 touchdowns 2 times that year. They beat us in the quarterfinals, and that was a really fun year for us. Did we win a state championship? No, but man, our kids continue to fight and learn and understand and enjoy the process and enjoy playing football, and they got better each week. And as a coach, that's one of those years I'll always remember. And I'm hoping that's what we've got this year, is a group of guys that they want to continue to improve, become the best football players and men, like you said, along the way. And I think if we can do that, we're going to be a tough out for some teams later in the year. We just got to continue to get better.
Well, one of the things that's hard for you is this schedule, and this not only your district but your non-district schedule. And last year it was for different reasons, injuries. This year it's for the inexperience, as you talk about, of your team. Talk about this schedule and how it can help you and how it can also hurt you.
Well, we're also dealing with injuries already this year, and it's one of those things. We've already got kids that aren't playing that would be starters for us. And that's another thing is, we're playing with kids that July 31st, we didn't really anticipate them being the starting kid in this position. I'll use Landon Hawker, for example. Landon's a junior, and he's always played tackle for us. And right now he's our starting tight end, and he's one of our defensive ends. And he played outstanding last week, and July 31st, we weren't for sure what Landon was going to do or where he would contribute. But, man, last week he was one of our better players, and his effort was outstanding. But, we're missing Caden Clement. We're missing Kason Carney. We're missing Garrett Hess with a broken collarbone. We're missing Tanner Dobbs, who's a starting defensive tackle. We've got 4 big injuries we're dealing with right now, and we got kids stepping up, and we're not missing a beat, really. And that's always fun to watch too, is those kids, you don't know how they're going to contribute, but they do end up contributing. So we are dealing with that. But, back to our schedule, man, we just, it's tough. It's tough for us to schedule. A lot of teams, they may not want to play. And then there's some teams that do. Usually the ones that do want to play are the Bells and the Pottsboroughs and the Paradise and and a really good Windthorst team year after year, which is good for us if we'll take it as an opportunity to get better each week. And our kids don't shy away from the competition. Bells is going to be there in the third and fourth round competing with the Holidays and Gunners and Jacksboroughs. Pottsboro is loaded. They got a great running back. Paradise is extremely fast and athletic, and I fully anticipate Paradise, being there playing Brock for a district championship. And Windthorst is always going to be a top-notch 2A team. But, no, it's tough, and our kids know that. They don't, but like I said earlier, there's no back down from them. There's no quit. They're going to get after them each and every week, and I fully anticipate the same thing tomorrow night against Paradise.
Well, let's talk about Paradise. They're a team that a couple years ago did things different offensively, but Austin Iglesias, who 2 years ago was a running back, last year kind of burst onto the scene as a quarterback, and in doing that, they've kind of evolved from a different style than they were a couple years ago. What are your thoughts when you see them on film?
Man, first off, Iglesias kid's a stud. I mean, that guy he's a football playing dude and a great athlete, and thing is, they've got 4 or 5 others that aren't, they're not much different than him. So they're very loaded. But from an offensive standpoint, they do something that's the thing. Last week we would go from seeing the slot T with Coach West at Bells, who we won't ever see again this year. And now we roll into Paradise. They line up in one formation, which is kind of a double slot empty look. They kick motion every time. Mm-hmm. They put you in a bind. And off of every single thing they do, they got a compliment to it, because you sit down and you start breaking down film. You're like, dude, they run one formation. How hard is this? And then all of a sudden they run power read, and off of that they run their play action off of it, or they run counter back. And it's an offense that we won't see again this year. Really puts you in a bind. They get their kids in open spaces as much as they can, and let them be athletes. And that's what they have are a really good group of athletes this year.
Well, you bring up a good point. We're in an era now where more and more when I talk to coaches, y'all have to make so many changes defensively week in and week out because you're seeing so many different offenses, whether it be the spread, the slot T, or like Paradise, where they line up one way, but they do 25 different things out of it. Yep. Defensively, I think we always talk about being a scoring era, but defensively, I do truly feel this is the toughest era for defenses in high school football.
I do too, and honestly, and I'm not saying this negative. I've got a guy, Coach Enderley's on my staff, and he was my quarterback back in 2010-11. He worked at Denton Braswell, and I've seen this a lot. But you get to the 5As and 6As, and it seems like you've got spread teams, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And you got teams that run a 3-4 or 33 stack on defense. But you drop down to 4A, 3A, and 2A, and every week you're seeing something different almost, which is kind of crazy to me. But I understand the big schools putting their kids in space. They got great athletes, all that good stuff. But I'm telling you, at our level, I feel like we see different things each week, where at the bigger school level, I'm not for sure they see as much different offenses as we do down here, and it's challenging, but it's also fun because you have to figure out a way to try to stop them. But no, I think from a defensive, it's tough on defensive coaches. And it's tough on Coach Johnson for me, our DC. Like I said, we go from the slot T, where there's 11 guys in the box, foot to foot, and they're running all kinds of crisscross in the back end, and they're crossing your eyes on defense. And then you come to Paradise, and they're wide open, empty, every formation, and using their kids in space. So, yeah, it's defensively for defensive coordinators nowadays, it's tough to stop everything everybody's doing. But at the small school, I'm telling you, of course, I've never coached at the 5A, 6A level, but you don't see many teams at the 5A, 6A level running wing T or slot T. It seems like everybody's spread up there. Where for us, we're going to see in district, we're going to see midline veer, double slot, so the flex bone from Santo. And then we're going to see Collinsville, who's going to be double strips and empties, putting their athletes in space. So it can be fun, but it can also be a headache. Coach Johnson spent all weekend trying to figure out how to stop this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden there's something else they throw out there. So, yeah, it's fun, but at the same time, it can be a headache for those guys.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie, and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. As always, we want to thank the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney, for joining us. Now, this year, it's going to be a little bit later in the week. Last year, I think we did it on Tuesdays, but just the way his schedule has changed a little bit, and it doesn't really fit with the other shows that I'm doing on Tuesday. So he will be Thursday, but hey, that's a great chance for you to listen as you're on the way to football games. I've got a lot of feedback from all the shows that we do, and a lot of the coaches' shows are listened like that on the way to games. And you can hear it, S2SSport.com. You can also just find it in a podcast platform. Just type in S2S Sports Network, and it's the black logo that says S2S. You can also find Grant and mine show, Sideline to Sideline, S2S Grant and Terry.com. They're also on every podcast platform as well. This is going to be an interesting game, man. Austin Iglesias is one of the most exciting players. I'll say at 4A and below, but really all of the classifications in the state. And to see the development where he started out as a running back / athlete, and then last year he moved into that quarterback role, and he ran for his normal 1,400 or 1,500 yards. He threw for 1,400 or 1,500 yards. I think he had like 65 total touchdowns or something crazy like that. This is a really good Paradise team, and like Coach Carney said, the schedule doesn't do favors for this young team, but they're going to learn from it. And again, I think once you play a Bells and you play a Paradise, when you get down back into the 2As, the game looks a little different. And you adjust a little bit better because you've seen faster, stronger, bigger, and all that fun stuff. And so as long as the attitude is positive and the players aren't getting beat down by the losses, and I don't think the coaching staff for Muenster will allow that to happen, I think you're going to see a team that is going to grow through the season, and by the end of the year be a team that might make some noise in the playoffs. And it's going to be a fun journey. And by the way, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, email them to me, Terry at S2SSport.com, and I will read them if they fit the show. So please do that, Terry at S2SSport.com. All right. Week 2 is already in the books, man. I mean, this is how fast it goes. The next show, we're already week 3. And we'll talk about that next week right here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show, brought to you by the Muenster Booster Clubs, Romer's Restaurant, and the Muenster Chamber of Commerce on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.